Hello. Welcome to my bathroom. Uh, Today we're going to talk about Oasis, Heathen Chemistry. I colored that in red, but you can't see it because I chose light blue to go with in the room, and well, the red's not coming out. But it looks cool, trust me. So Heathen Chemistry, released in 2002, is a really interesting album for them because it feels like the one people either don't talk about or they just think is bad. And the reason for this, or partially, is because 2005's Don't Believe the Truth is seen as a return to form. Okay? And then their first three albums are the classic, three. And people have only just started going beyond that to reappraise Standing on the Shoulder of Giants. So if they're just reaching out from that side, and from the other side, 2005's a return to form, this puts this right smack in the middle of the crosshairs. So I don't even think it matters the quality of it. It just sits in a weird spot in the Oasis canon. I don't think it's all that different or out there. I like all of their albums, to varying degrees. But this one, I mean, the time it came out, there wasn't a lot of goodwill, at least in America, for Oasis. It seemed like they never really quite made it here. They're still considered a one-hit wonder by some people here in the United States. But their album to crack the U.S. was supposed to be Here Now. And for a variety of reasons, it really didn't work out. And things slipped further down with Standing on the Shoulder of Giants. There's another YouTuber who I wish I had written down his name, but to tell you, I'll link it in the bottom. He came up with a great hypothesis as to why, or theory, as to why they dropped off so quickly in popularity. And he lives in the UK, and he was talking about how they would always, for the first three albums, they always had new singles coming out with B-sides and new songs. And after Be Here Now, they took like almost 2 years off with nothing, and it really killed their momentum. So it wasn't that Be Here Now was so bad, or that Britpop was dead, or that, the national consciousness was shifting, the death of Princess Diana, all these little things you could say. But I think he's right that they turned the spigot off. And when they did that, we're just coming into the internet age, and people's ADHD really doesn't allow them to really focus on anything anymore. So by the time this album came out in 2002, I don't think anyone was really into them at this point. It still charted well in the UK, and they had a #1 single with the first single from the album, Hindu Times, which was released in April of 2002, and this album came out in July. I love Hindu Times. It's a great rocker. It's a rocker. It's just it sounds like Oasis, but it's moving it in a little bit of a different direction than going. There's some, I guess, Middle Eastern type flourishes musically, if we're reaching to connect the title with the song. But the Hindu Times, which is track 1 on Heathen Chemistry, really doesn't have much to do with India. They were going to shoot the video in India, but I guess something came up. I don't know what came up, but something came up, and they ended up shooting it in Abbey Road Studios. Great song. I think even detractors of this album, and there are many, would admit that that's a rocking tune. It's not world beating. It's not going to. It doesn't advance the Oasis sound or story too far ahead, but it's a cool rockin' tune. And as far as Oasis goes, I think that's kind of all they have to deliver sometimes. Unfortunately, that's all they delivered with this album. I don't think it's that bad. I just think it's... Someone called it Oasis by numbers in a review. I wouldn't say it was Oasis by numbers. It's just like what they wrote in the songs they had at the time, and they just laid them down. I don't think there was a lot of, talking about what they were going to do or where their career was. I just don't get that from them. I don't feel like they do a lot of that, or they were doing a lot of that, especially at the time. It doesn't seem like a contrived thing. It just seems like we had these songs and let's go. Now, some of the songs themselves, you could probably make a case for being a bit contrived, but we'll get to that. Lineup for this album is Gem Archer on guitar, Andy Bell on bass, Alan White on drums for his last Oasis album, and Tony McCarroll, he's my fucking Oasis drummer. I love that guy. I know he has trouble with timing and stuff, but he really drove that band in a way that Alan White had a bit too much finesse. He was more like almost a jazz player or something. Not, people that are into jazz would hear that and laugh, but they needed a Tony McCarroll, and I think they could have worked on his timing. Probably some personal issues too. I read his book, and there was an awful lot going on between them all personally. So, but anyway, Alan White with his last Oasis album as drummer. Johnny Marr makes an appearance on the album, doing slide guitar on one track, a solo on another, and he sings some backups as well. And when we get to those songs, I'll point that out. But the first track is also the first single, Hindu Times. It's great. I don't know, I love that song. It may be my favorite song in the album. It is my favorite song, yeah. Catchy as hell. Just gonna light this, hang on. Yeah, love Hindu Times. Track 2, Force of Nature. This is like what would be known as like a glam stomp, which is what they would do a couple more times in the following 2 albums. Very T-Rex-ish. It took a lot of heat for the lyrics, but Oasis has never really, lyrics are very secondary to them, and I understand their whole process. And, as far as lyrics go, I've seen enough stuff with Noel where lyrics are very secondary to him. That being said, I do think it seems like more thought went into the lyrics here. I don't want to say they're poetic, but there's a little bit more leaning into that direction. The songs Liam wrote, I think they have good lyrics. I don't know. There's the Hearing You Smile thing. There's a couple of those that are just like dark, but I don't know. Force of Nature I like. It's very T-Rexy. Noel sings it. Noel wrote it. He wrote the first 2 songs we just mentioned here, Hindu Times and Force of Nature. Force of Nature is just about, it sounds like a girl that is only with him like a gold digger type situation. Which is, I don't know if you'd be able to get away with that today in a popular rock band. I think the blue check marks would go crazy over that. But thankfully this was 2002 and the world was a bit more accepting. Hung in a Bad Place, track 3. It's a Gem Archer song. Nah, there's no chorus here. I think it has a cool little like Beatles thing that it goes to from the choruses. It's the bass line mostly. The boom, doom, doo, 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 from the chorus into the bass, which reminds me of the Beatles. I don't know if I want to say Paperback Writer, I'm probably completely wrong. But yeah, it's cool, but it's definitely screams of B-side or filler. And, this time Noah wanted more band kind of creation, which is fine, but, if this one turned up at rehearsal, I'd be like, could you maybe work on a little more, maybe put a chorus in here? Don't bore us. Write a chorus. Uh, Track 4, Stop Crying Your Heart Out. This seems a bit contrived, to me. I mean, Oasis ballads had never been this ballady. This is almost like a power ballad, like something Robbie Williams would do or something. And I think the piano has a big part of why that seems that way. But it's almost like you know where it's going when it starts. You can kind of sing along to it before you even heard it. It's derivative of a lot of other kind of piano ballads. It's got a good hook, but I mean, that's because it's taken from Don't Look Back in Anger. So I mean, that was a good song. So this one kind of feels like, oh shit, we need some kind of song. You know, it's got. I don't hate it. It's got a good like atmosphere to it. I like the end of it with that sort of the piano. Dun, 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 dun. That end of that reminds me of David Bowie's "Where Are We Now," which would come out years later, and they would kind of do that same thing at the end of his tune, but it's on guitar, I think. I'm not saying he got it from Oasis, but I'm not saying he didn't. That's Stop Crying Your Heart Out. It was the second single. Got a little bit of traction here in America. I remember hearing it on the radio, as well as In Due Times. And I think this was the last Oasis album to chart in America. It sold like 100,000 copies, or 150,000 copies, something like that. And I think that's the last they've ever bothered the U.S. charts. Stop Crying Your Heart Out did get some play. And I remember the talk around this album at the time was the return to form. Noel said that this is their second best album, right after Definitely Maybe. That's definitely bullshit. But the pre-release hype was that this is them getting back on track. And if you only were to hear Hindu Times and Stop Crying Your Heart Out on the radio, you may believe that. But, it wasn't. Track 5, Songbird. This is Liam's contribution, one of them. Great song. This is right up there with Hindu Times as being the best one. I think it might edge out Hindu Times even. The lyrics are a bit corny, but it's earnest. He's hard. You can tell he means it. He's not phoning this one in. And it doesn't seem like he's working at it. It seems effortless, but it's just a good song. I mean, after hearing Little James from Giant's album, which ranks up there with Brandon from Motley Crue, you could probably be a little bit suspicious of a new Liam song, but he really knocked it out of the park with this. It's a great tune. And they played it, I think, quite a bit at different tours. I know toward the end they dropped it, but I know it was around for a while. Track 7 is A Quick Peep by Andy Bell. The track should be called Some Publishing Money for Andy Bell. It's like 2 minutes of this kind of jam that sounds a bit like Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac, but it's just a 2-minute like jam thing. It doesn't even lead into the next track or have anything to do with anything. It's just kind of, there it is. Padding, and then you can say everyone in the band wrote a song, well, except for Alan. But you can say, yeah, there's 4 of us writing songs now. I know they talked about that a lot too, but when you bring in Hung in a Bad Place and this, A Quick Peep, which is, I don't even know what to say about that. Like, whatever. No, just write. You don't worry about being a unified band. I think they were looking for a hook because they were falling off and they wanted to, the whole band's writing songs now. Whatever. Probably on the Mind, track 8, Noel Gallagher. This one's cool. But it's one of those kind of songs when I'm listening to it, I'm like, yeah, this is kind of cool. It has a psychedelic kind of feel to it. Johnny Marr does a solo. But a few minutes after I've heard it, I can't really tell you anything about it. Except that it's psychedelic sounding a bit, and Johnny Marr plays it. Like, I couldn't tell you the hook, I couldn't sing you any part of it. So it's one of those in one ear out the other. I thought I was going to make a good case for this album and say it's not as bad as everyone says, but that's not what happened here. She Is Love. This song's cool. No Gallagher on acoustic. It's kind of like sort of a campfire type song. It reminds me a bit of like, I don't want to say the Beatles, but like kind of something Paul would do on a solo album mainly. Maybe. I don't know. I could be off on that. I'm not a big Beatles guy. But it sounds like something like that. Acoustic guitar, strummy, campfire type song. I dig it. I think it's cool. Not bad at all. Born on a Different Cloud is track 10. This is another offering from Liam. Very, as everyone, I guess I have to say it too, it's a John Lennon type inspired tune, but it's really cool. It's one of the better songs on the album. And again, Liam, when he, the stuff he writes, you can tell, like, sometimes you can hear Noel sort of phoning it in a little bit. Liam doesn't do that with his songs. He always seems to really, want to get it across. I totally forgot about track 6, Little by Little, which was the third single from this album. In this, Little by Little, I'm going to get back to Born on a Different Cloud. I forgot Little by Little. It's track 6. This was the third single from the album. And this kind of is another... I like this song. I like it. I think the chorus is really good. Has an anthemic kind of... I think the word is soaring. I don't want to use. But it does feel a bit contrived. It feels a little bit like crying your heart out. Like, all right, we need a song that's kind of radio-esque or catchy or melodic. And they used to kind of just do that. By this point in their career, I think they were just confused by a lot of things. And I feel like this might be a little bit of an overworked one. But I like it. I like it more than Stop Crying Your Heart Out. Noel does a good version of this, sometimes solo, or he has done. And the lyrics are just pretty funny, though. We the people fight for our existence. I feel douchey even saying it. Yeah, we're not perfect, but we're free. I don't know what he's on about. But he'd probably say the same thing. And he'd probably be the first one to trash it. I think he did trash this on that. There's a great, like, DVD of him going through all the Oasis videos and just shitting on all of them. He's not a video guy. But he cuts up some of the songs, too. And this is one of them that doesn't escape the Noel hammer. All right, so getting back to Born on a Different Cloud. Very John Lennon, but good. One of the better songs on the album. And then track 11, and then, another Liam song, Better Man. Noel and Liam wrote this song together. And it's got some guitar and backing vocals by Johnny Marr. Oh, Johnny Marr plays slide on Born on a Different Cloud too, which is really nice. He's great, you know. It's Johnny Marr. You know, what are you going to do? Better Man's cool. It seems like a self kind of an autobiographical sort of song about Liam wanting to improve, but knowing he's like kind of a wild man, vicious and zen, as he has said. And that's it. That's Heathen Chemistry. I don't think it's as awful as people say. It's just Oasis doing what they do. These are the songs they had at the time, and they were rolling with it. But they couldn't get away with that this time. They needed something extraordinary. If this was Don't Believe the Truth, Then we'd have something. Don't Believe the Truth should have went here. So because of circumstances and, you know, probably some being the weakest in songwriting of the Oasis canon, it sits where it sits. But I enjoy it. It's fun to throw on once in a while. And I listened to it a couple times as I was drawing this thing. And yeah, I dig it. I don't think there's a bad Oasis. They don't make bad albums. You know, they don't necessarily even make bad songs as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you know, I'm kind of an apologist in that way. I can recognize the lesser ones, but I don't know, they're one of my favorite bands, so I just feel bad trashing their stuff. It pains me. But one thing, the worst thing you can do for any artist you like is to not have standards for them. And, you know, I know they can do better, and most bands can, so you got to kind of hold them to that. And Heathen Chemistry was just sort of workmanlike Oasis. It didn't push anything forward, didn't use a lot of new sounds in any way outside of Hindu Times. It's just an average Oasis album, which is better than most bands' best albums. So, yeah, Heathen Chemistry.